Okay, so let's start this event. We are now ready to start our second ECoC Watch event. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the event Looking to the Future, the Sustainability of the ECoC Watch. An event of the Culture Data Project, which holds several partners, as you can see. My name is Dora Gomes. I am a PhD in tourism, and I'll be moderating this event. From Polytechnic of Leiria, one of the leading partners of this project, we also count with the presence of Alcina Gaspar Ferreira, Maria Beatriz Piedade, and also Rogério Costa, members of the Culture Data Project. Good morning. Thank you all for being here to discuss with us the sustainability of the ECoC Watch. This session is held within the scope of Culture Data Project, financed by the COSM program of the European Union. Just to remind, the project targets tourism, small and medium enterprises in the European capitals of culture, and supports them to develop a data-driven approach, build the link between tourism destinations and tourism SMEs, create a multidisciplinary business approach that leverages synergies between tourism, culture, creativity, and digital technology, and also to embark on an invigorating journey through a dynamic support system designed like a human. This project has various actions, such as transformative boot camps, allocation of financial support to SMEs, and also the creation of an observatory for the ECoCs, the ECoC Watch, as you can see, and that's the main reason for today's events. The observatory has a multidisciplinary team with more than 20 participants who have been working in the ECoC Watch since the beginning of 2022. The ECoC Watch already proposed a system of indicators to monitor ECoCs and develops periodic reports with data on ECoCs. So in today's event, we will analyze the future of the ECoC Watch, namely in terms of its sustainability and contribution to supporting the ECoC and creative industries. Sorry, are you seeing my screen? Just to be sure, are you seeing my screen? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, continuing, as I was saying, the purpose of this event is to discuss the sustainability of the ECoC Watch and how it can contribute to future European capitals of culture, and also to cultural and creative industries. To achieve this goal, today we have with us contributing to this discussion Francisco Dias, professor and researcher at the Polytechnic of Leiria with a PhD in tourism science from the University of Perpignan, France. He's the founder and director of the International Tourism Film Festival, vice president of the Film Commission of Center of Portugal, and scientific coordinator of the Sustainable Tourism Observatory of Center of Portugal. Good morning, Francisco. Hi. We also have with us Mattijs Maussen, consultant specialized fellow in European cultural interventions with extensive experience in managing large-scale projects. He led several teams within the scope of the ECoCs and worked as an advisor in several bidding and implementation of the European Capital of Culture, having participated in more than 10 successful applications. Finally, we also have with us Michal, Hladky, specialized in urban planning, culture, and creative industries, computer-aided design, and non-governmental organizations. He's the author of the Interface Project and collaborator of the winning project for COSI's European Capital of Culture in 2013, and also the director of the non-governmental organization COSI's 2013. So, oh, sorry, I was not passing. Now, thank you so much to our speakers for accepting our invitation. And I truly believe we will learn so much from them, and also want to state that the audience is invited to participate in this discussion and elucidate us with your experience and also your knowledge. Now, to start this roundtable, the first topic I want to start by addressing is purpose and strategy of the ECoC Watch. As you know, the purpose of the ECoC Watch is to empower and cultivate a data-driven culture within ECoCs, particularly among future capitals, to help them keep track of their achievements in the hosting year and to take advantage of those achievements to keep developing the city. Sorry. So, with this introduction, the first question I want to address to our speakers is, how can the observatory continue to support ECoCs, past, present, and future ones? For example, should it individually support ECoCs, elected or candidates in data-related topics, or develop general reports with statistics on ECoCs to a larger audience? First thoughts, I don't know who wants to start. Francisco, would you like to start? Or Matt? Sorry, can you, none of our speakers can have you have the mute on? Francisco, I see you are speaking, but you have your microphone off. I don't know if...
No, I can't. Okay, no, I can't. Okay. Good morning to all. Thank you for the invitation to this meeting. For me, it's a huge challenge, because as a coordinator of Observatory of Tourism of Central Portugal, we have similar problems like we find here. What I want to say, first, is complex, but is relatively easy to create a system of indicators. What is difficult is to improve and to maintain for lasting, working for several years, this system with the support of all the actors, in this case the cities, because the destiny of indicator system is to remain in the reports. We have to create strong and cohesive system to be sure that this system of indicators will go, for example, to the bid books of future candidates, for example. If we don't introduce these criteria in the stage of candidature, when applying to be ECoC for the next years, will be difficult to maintain this system. Why? In Portuguese, we say health is full of good intentions. Our problem in monitoring activities of tourism is to engage companies in regular, continuous monitoring. They don't care. They think, most of small and middle enterprise, they think that data comes from heaven, from the official entities. We have to create awareness. We have to raise awareness of without primary data, without raw data, we can't have effective system of monitoring. This is for me the biggest problem, how to make real the monitoring system. As I said before, it's complex to create a system, a coherent system, but we already have, and it is good. Yesterday, during 3 hours, I again verified all the systems that you checked during the preliminary studies, and you did it very good. I think that the monitoring system is good itself, but as I said, we need to create collaborative system. We have to introduce this system in real decision-making system for this in moment of decision to give the status of ECoC in the future. And from the beginning, when the city, for example, nowadays Évora in Portugal will be was decided to be capital of culture in 2027. If in this moment in this city have already as a mandatory this system for monitoring all the activities, they could assess the improvements during the preparing stage. They could measure the impacts before, during, and after. I think that the monitoring system for ECoCs should work at least 10 years. 5 years before, or 4 years before, during the year of the ECoC, and at least more 3-4 years after. But the same system without changing, and to keep the same model for the next ECoCs will ensure the comparing of the results. So if you don't work in this direction, I think you are losing time and money. By now, it's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Francisco. Mattijs, would you like to contribute?
Okay. So, good morning. My name is Mattijs. I call from Prague. I'm pretty nervous because at 3 o'clock this afternoon there is the press conference for the decision in Czech Republic. There's 2 cities, Budovice against Brumov, and I'm looking forward to whatever decision is made there. I've got a couple of reactions. So thank you for your invitation. I must say I was a little bit confused also by your questions because it feels a little bit like sense-making conference. And I always have to laugh I have to smile inside myself when I see recommendations from processes with researchers, academics, consultants, artists, where many times what happens is basically the recommendation number 1 is always more research has to be done. And I think that is also in terms of sense making, it's maybe good to know that a lot of research has been done in the last 15 years to my experience. And that's what I want to build on. What I see in terms of the indicators is that if you look at the indicators in monitoring and evaluation in the last 15 years, there is actually 4 groups. The first group is management information for the group of, in my experience, the 10 to 15 decision makers that just want to know, are we on track and are we delivering what we want to say? It is a very small, mostly these reports are not seen by many people. Because it's about money and it's also, it's really risks and you really see the hardcore management information. Secondly, is there is evaluations being done about strategical aspects, strategical projects, communication aspects, or specific projects that are very, very visible and that really need to justify why so much money is done. I am thinking about the Royal Deluxe in Leeuwarden, or like very visible projects mostly need some extra follow-up and follow through. And so therefore you see that these kind of highlights in the year are really, and large processes also in terms of engagement are mostly closely followed, and they have their own set of indicators that sometimes even bite the management information, because they are really looking at another aspect of it. Then a third group is basically indicators of success. So big cultural capital processes cannot fail. So they're basically written for the media to sell success, whatever happens. But of course, in the background, these indicators of success can also really have like subdivisions that are really interested. But once again, they're not written for an academical use. They're written for making a narrative of success around whatever happens. And then there is a fourth group that is basically trying to find ECoCs. Trying to find how the ECoC has progressed in its candidacy, in its preparatory process, and afterwards. So some sense making still also has to be done, where you basically see also more and more very good impact projects, the impact reports being written. Did we spend the money in the right way, but also did it lead to what we expected? Was it only a year of parties, or is there also a potential for legacy? These kind of questions, and these kind of, especially these last ones, are mainly used also in academical debates, is my experience, where actually the first three is more difficult to get into, because you see a lot of mistakes also being made, and therefore they are not always public. But these first 2 and 3 channels are actually sometimes really painting another perspective on the whole project than what is visible in the academical research outside. And therefore, it is also good to know is that, to my experience, cultural capital projects that are chosen are more and more specific, actually, especially because the urgency or the real need why it's there needs to be very authentic. And since this authenticity is becoming more and more upfront, you see that the nature of the project, it might look like a traveling around circus, but working inside, I see that because you start working more and more on authentical issues, you see also that the indicators needed to justify to work on that hot potato that is inside are just need to be more specific and need to be formulated also in a way that your local audiences can understand why it is. And that is, I think, a big task also for academics and consultants to help translate these kind of local languages, not to criticize them, but to translate these local languages into something that could be used somewhere more uniform outside, and not the other way around, and saying we have these big monitoring systems, and how can you as an ECoC integrate that? Another point I want to make is that there has been a network of universities in ECoCs that had organized in the summer. I think it's 4 or 5 years ago. They organized several conferences that also came back, and after that, the Commission also changed some of the questions. Also with the help of their internal consultants, because they do after every year there is like their own. The Commission has their own evaluation and monitor their own evaluation, and so with the help there is also a more the bid books itself require certain indicators to be taken in account, and mostly you see that bid books are still treating these indicators in separate units. The really local or really local, regional, national ones don't mix very well with the international ones. And I think more clever thinking, especially how the pan-European indicators can be more fitting to this local reality, especially with changing of the understanding of what data is available, is actually a better approach in my experience. And that brings me also to another point, is that I have 2 more points. Is that another point is that my experience also in candidacies is that if you start as a city, you start your conversation with basically a short period where you have like 2-3 months, you hire a couple of data wizards, and you set them in a data war room, and you start trying to find what is already available, and use that as an indicator, and use that kind of information that you find then as an indicator, is actually very productive. I've done that in several cities where we were very surprised what mostly a young group of people already could find. And because of that, the market also has a lot of, and with free sources, a lot of data already available from different resources, not only Eurostat, but also Vodafone and telephone companies there. And if you start with what is available and how can we make better connections with that, instead of an academical approach and say, yeah, it makes sense, the sense making, move it a little bit and really see first what is available and how can we make use of that. I've got good experiences with that. And then my last point here is, as an introduction, is that I miss actually also the point that in collection of indicators, I see that more and more creatives or artists or creative evaluators or artists with an evaluator background are involved, because this kind of creativity, it fits very well to a project like a cultural capital. It communicates very good. The engagement, it helps the audiences to understand what is the outcome of the indicators and the report. It makes that reports are better read. But for instance, me personally, I have very good experiences with universities like in Zurich and in Ghent, where you have special interdisciplinary faculties that deal with artists that become evaluators, or evaluators that develop their creative skills, and PhDs, where, for instance, in the case of Pilsen, very concretely, an artist came and sat on the market square of Pilsen and opened a desk for European passports. He was sitting there 2 weeks in a small cabin. And basically, whilst he was providing everybody who wanted to, in a formal passport way, a European, you could apply for a European passport, but whilst doing that, he was asking crucial European questions to whoever came to his desk. And the outcome of that communicated very well, but also gave a real deep understanding of what was going on. And it was done in an academical proved way. Thank you for letting me share this information.
Thank you, Mattijs. Thank you for a great contribution, which actually introduces to a lot of other questions that I believe will also be addressed in this event. Michal, any final thoughts on how we can help ECoC?
Yeah, I won't be covering the indicators or whatsoever, because it has been covered with my colleagues, but just to briefly, maybe not speculate, but think of your question, whether to address the ECoC as a whole or start collaborating with single or particular ECoCs. I would personally go the second way, to start with the singular cities. And then when the body of research will be solid enough, then you can roll on a wider scale. And of course, European Union has its own evaluation, and JCR has the Creative Cities Monitor, and there are certain methodologies already run on a wider scale. So I would look at that, or maybe OECD, Better Life Index. And so there are some already existing methodologies which covering a lot of cities. So I would go strategically, I would go singular cities or individual cities, and then think of whether this makes sense. And as Mattijs said, the priorities or the goals or narratives around different ECoCs are completely different. So there might be sets of KPIs which are common, but then every specificity needs new let's say indicators or things to look at.
Sure, new approaches. Thank you, Michal. So I remember that the audience is always welcome to make any comments or any questions. if not now, at the end of the event, of course. And I think you can always turn on your mic to speak. Next question for this discussion. We know that the observatories are somewhat dependent on the generally voluntary sharing of data by the organizations. For example, when it comes to tourism data, most observatories have the collaboration of big national tourism entities or even regional entities. Now, how can the observatory, the ECoC Watch, obtain the collaboration and cooperation of different entities involved in the ECoCs? And how can the ECoC Watch also contribute to data sharing between different ECoCs? Let's say, Francisco, would you like to start this question too?
Okay, but before go ahead, I would like to say another one, for me, important thing as a reply to Michal, because according to his opinion, we don't need to be here because every city should create a specific set of indicators and the comparability will disappear. I think that we have to consider specificities of each city, of course, but the set of indicators can integrate that diversity. And what we need a continuous system to make coherent the monitoring system. And ECoC Watch is that. We can, of course, discuss what is better indicators, how to improve these indicators, but today our agenda is not that. Today our agenda is how to make to guarantee the survival of ECoC Watch. This is our focus today. And I think that financial and management of this structure should be ensured after the end of the cultural data program or financing. This is why I said before that if you ensure a long-lasting monitoring approach to cities, we need specific entity, let's say ECoC Watch, to maintain this system coherent in different cities. This is a kind of European observatories for ECoCs. Okay, we can discuss different indicators, what is better and what is worse, but we need a permanent observatory that improve but in practices the coherent system. For that, we need, for example, to create a kind of NGO or I don't know, but or a set of a network of cities to work together to find the solution, the better solution for financing professional staff working all time with us. And I think that the money you can get, because just 1% of money that is spent during the applications to be a ECoC would be enough for this issue, I suppose. But I don't know enough how works the financing of ECoCs, but I suppose that we don't need a lot of money. Will not be substantial to keep to institutionalize ECoC Watch as a structure. We need that, I think.
Okay, so being in the middle of this finance structure, I think ECoCs financing an observatory is maybe not the first way that you could go. I mean, that's not how the finance works. I think that the discussion should be first on what is the aim of that, what is the methodology that you would like to function, and there I would like to drop an idea. So I've got a list of around 40 medium-sized and big crises that every cultural capital goes through. And you can actually summarize them more or less in 10 big crises that in the preparation, so from 3 years before candidacy until the moment that the decision is made, the 5 years of preparation, and then the year itself, and then the aftercare, and the 3 years after, there is more or less 9 to 10 crises that always need to take place. The artistic director is changing, everybody forgotten the narrative, there's last minute, you know, everybody who has run a cultural capital recognizes these 9 to 10 crises, and it's just waiting till it takes place. And sometimes it's 3 months earlier, and sometimes 9 months later, but they all have to take place. There is some sense making. So if you would choose a very pragmatic and actually a lifeline, thinking in terms of a lifeline of a process, in other EU funded processes like in Horizon or in Leonardo, Erasmus, this kind of thinking has been applied, where you basically keep out of the content discussion, but you basically really look at the technicality of the complexity of how the instrument works, the ECoC works, the mechanism behind it. You focus on that, and you basically make a system of awareness towards each other where the similarity is. Then it might make sense because you stay out of the content. The content becomes more and more specific, also because we are choosing more and more smaller cities. So these cities, if you look at the European dimension themes that modern cultural capitals choose, they're more and more specific and specific. They're not such big European goals where cultural capitals try to attract the attention of half of the European nations. No, it's more and more specific and more deep. And with that, actually, through all different kind of digital mechanisms, it becomes more and more impactful. So my proposal would be that if you really would like to think about this way forward, to first spend a little bit of energy and brain power and clever people like yourself together to develop a methodology that basically really helps to stimulate people to get it, and especially aim in the very beginning of the process on what kind of data is already free available.
Okay, thank you, Mattijs. You are already introducing me to our next question, and I'm going to jump a little bit on one question here. So we keep talking about this financial sustainability of the ECoC Watch, and I'll make this question: how can we make the ECoC Watch financially sustainable? What financial resources can we get to fund this ECoC Watch? And now I would like to give the word to Michal. Since you work in a non-governmental organization, I believe you also have a lot of knowledge in this area.
Well, yeah, sure. First of all, I would look on the demand. So there are ECoCs which are in pipeline, preparing for the running or already running the bid. So that's a market. And then the other one is EU or any other organizations like JCR who are interested to get interesting data or making sense of what's going on and how ECoCs contribute to any kind of development, being regional development or in general the development of the European Union. But what's interesting at the moment, and we are part of it, is under the horizon, the EIT Culture and Creativity has been established. And there will be a lot of research ongoing, as well as the ECoC might be a platform in any sense of some kind of developments of the innovation in culture creative industries. So like joining the research group of the EIT might be interesting, or joining the policy club of the EIT might be interesting to having a foot in the door, because the other programs might follow. So like basically there are two options. Either you go on market and your clients are ECoCs or you identify the opportunities to perpetuate the project funding from different sources, and be it Horizon, be it other. I'm not sure if Erasmus or anything like that, but EIT might be a very interesting tool for ECoC Watch.
Yeah, thank you. Francisco or Mattijs, any thoughts on this question?
Yeah, so there's of course another opportunity is now the debate is going to start about the program after 2032. And so let's say the first decisions are going to be made in the beginning in Parliament in March 25, and in the run up for that, it can of course always be discussed or lobbied or brought up to the Commission, brought under the attention of the Commission that there's a real interest to spend more money on trying to find out what is the outcome. It all starts with the questionnaire. So the current questionnaire that we are using is already 2 programs old. So the program is 7 years. Let me see. No, it's 12 years. So the current questions that we are asking to new candidates already, if I'm not mistaken, it dates from 2000 onwards. So the fact that these questions are so old, and for instance, the fact that there is not a question on the digital strategy, for instance, is a real manko. It really, the setup of that brings the wrong attitude in terms of what an ECoC is about. A modern ECoC is for 85% is digital. The digital connections, that's where the most people are involved. Last time that Leeuwarden measured it, there was 800 million clicks measured in 3 years. This is all available. So that kind of thinking can be inserted into the new program, and then along that, so what data is available and how can researchers, together with creative and artistic people, make use of that to give more transparency on how these processes work. There is a real chance to build things, but I think it's the wrong way around to start first saying it needs an organization and people, and you understand, you first really need to find a clear entry point, how the life circle of research of an ECoC is basically deeper implemented into the whole system that the Commission is proposing.
Thank you. No, I don't know if Francisco wants to say something more about this.
I can shortly say something. Yeah, I approach these questions from tourism. In tourism, we have national and regional observatories. There is an international network of sustainable tourism observatories from UNWTO. For example, looking to Portugal, the next capital of culture, we have Évora city, but we have also Alentejo Observatory. So if ECoC Watch works together with the tourism observatories, this can be a good basis to do the remaining things. Of course, the financing would be, for example, consulting for the cities, ECoC cities. One way of financing. Another could be from the European Union, I don't know, but I think that it's better work together and go together, getting funding together with tourism observatories. By the way, tourism observatories deal with the same problematics, deal with the same complexities, but in all the territory, not only at one city. This is why I think that we need a permanent, coherent system. And we already are creating that in tourism. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I see that Hladky has her hand raised. I think I'm asking just a second. Okay.
So, hello everyone, I'm Raluca Jacob. I work for Timișoara, European Capital of Culture this year. And I say hello to Matthias, who I don't know. I mean, I've met personally. I know he had a big role to play in Timișoara's candidacy and its winning of the title. Now I actually have two hats. I joined the team last year in July, and one of my hats is being the expert for the Center for Projects in drafting the strategy for monitoring and evaluation of the results and impact. Now, I told you already, I joined last year, and this year is already the program is happening at the title is for this year. So you can imagine, I guess, the challenges that I have and my team and everyone here has. But my question is more related to, well, actually, I first have an observation, and it has to do not only with this experience, but my previous experience as well. When I was working for an advocacy think tank, working with anti-corruption and good governance, so very different worlds, I must say. But I was part of a project in which this organization was trying with other European partners to make this link between the academia and the public policy research, and to try to bridge the knowledge creation and sharing between the two. And I must say it was a very painful process to watch and to experience. And this was happening for a couple of reasons that I think would be relevant also for this discussion. The first was just that the discourse of each of the two parties was very different. So the very language in which the two parties were speaking about the same subject was like using different vocabularies. The second one, the incentives from the both worlds were very different. So in the policy world, the research was more used in the sense that Matthias was saying, so very more practical, instrumental type of use, while in the academia, it was just knowledge production and creation of moving knowledge forward. And it was very difficult. And I must say that even for my role here, working with universities presents the same type of challenges. And in this role, I guess I don't have a lot of experience with ECoCs, but what I see here is that, I mean, the research is used as consultancy and information to produce data that would be useful, okay, for decision making, for reporting, for communication, but basically it's in the frame of consultancy. It's not in the frame of knowledge creation for the sake of knowledge. And in that sense, the question for you working for the ECoC Watch is, how do you plan to develop this flexibility to adapt to the specific nature of capacities and interests to use the knowledge that you could generate for the ECoC so that it makes sense for them? And a corollary to that would be, how do you plan to work with team members across Europe so that you have a good insight and a quick insight into the ECoC situation? Because I would be reluctant, for example, to work with someone from a very different context in Europe, coming on a 6 months contract or 1 year contract, whatever, to consult with us, because I know it takes quite a lot of time and energy for us to be able to present to that person or that team, to make them understand the context that we are working on before they can help us. So sometimes this energy is, if you put, the two, what you can get out of the consultancy versus what it takes for you to make someone who's not familiar with your context understand where you stand, not to mention traveling, and being familiar with the people and the ecosystem. Sometimes it makes much more sense to choose someone who's not that experienced and that knowledgeable, but who understands better and who has more flexibility to adapt to where I stand and where we stand. So how do you work with these challenges? I guess I'm not saying something completely new, but I'm just putting this on the table, but I think it also relates to what you've been discussing process-wise more.
Yeah, thank you. And obviously is one of the questions that the ECoC Watch is thinking about. And we need to keep in mind that our first goal is to develop a sustainable observatory. And of course, the first question that was here put on table was how can we help ECoCs, past ones, present ones, and future ones, and how can we create a collaboration between the academy and the industry. And this actually leads to another question, that is how after this project Cultura ends, how do we create a good management organization? So who should be introduced to the team of the ECoC Watch? Right now, we have an internal team with project members from academia and industry, of course, and also a board and advisory teams. But at the end of the project, and this is a question that I would like our speakers to answer, is how should the team of the ECoC Watch be organized? Who should be in the team of the ECoC Watch, so we can answer both to academy, both to industry, but with the main goal to give better results to the ECoCs. Go ahead, Mattijs.
So the first thing, so if I were to set up a new evaluation team, the first person I would implement is a digital wizard. That's where you need to start, because that's what you have already for free, and there's a lot of information available. And then sharing between these digital wizards, like what kind of, so it is very simple. It is like in Leeuwarden they used 250 euro what is it, software that they would buy they bought like access to certain type of information, 250 euros a year. And it appears that the same software is also available in Germany and in Czech Republic. So if you use the same software tools, you are already automatically starting with a data set that is already easier to compare. And secondly is that we also should not forget that it always, like in every European decision, in every European process, it always starts with the definitions first. And there is still the directive of the ECoCs is still very open. So it's not what a cultural capital is to every city on its own. What a cultural capital is to every city and region on its own to decide. That's what you write in the bid book. So we have to accept that reality, because the directive, and it's not going to be very probable that it's going to change, that we will have one uniform decision what a cultural capital is. There is many different kind of ways, and that is very European, and that's a reality that we have to live with. So in that reality, it really is good to start with what we already have for free in most cases, or for very low, especially because there's sets of data available. So if you start with those people first, then I fully agree with Raluca, is hire young people and give them way too much responsibility, because it's enormous what kind of creativity comes out. And there is really good people, and also mentors that are able to really come up with also artistical solutions and artistical data collection techniques. It really enriches it. And then later on, when you really have like already a set of indicators that you know, then it starts making sense that you have some bigger brains as you wish, or develop brains that basically do some sense making and try to put it into a context. And then I think automatically you will see that these models will more be comparable.
Can I add something? I like the proposals made by Mattijs, but I would like to contribute at a different level, not the complementary level. I think for survival of ECoC Watch, you need juridic status for the future corpus that will continue this work. I think that the international association, European association, inviting as a members former ECoCs and future ECoCs, together with academia, with artists, with cultural institutions. I think it can be the best way for a continuous juridic strong corpus. Of course, we have to be smart. We have to work with technologies, as suggested Mattijs, and at first stage, don't complicate the task, because the task itself is very complex.
Okay, thank you so much. We only have 5 minutes until the end of this session. So any final comments or any other question that the speakers or the audience wants to make?
I want to say something else, is that what I've also seen is that there's growing groups of citizens or let's say amateur artists in different cities, local artists also, that are uniting and that are collecting information about what is going on in ECoCs and exchanging that among each others. And these kind of debates are not highbrow, they're very pragmatic. It is people that are just worried what is happening with their city. It's a little bit of sharing of worries in the beginning, but many of these debates are very inspiring because people come up with citizens journalism, all different kind of new techniques or newer techniques of how to exchange. And I think in the way forward, these kind of that's also a network of people that has a potential to stimulate. Because that's the people that look at you as an observatory, if you ever would be.
Yeah, I would just add that citizen science is a great approach. So you can really outsource and empower citizens to help you to collect data or maybe analyze it as well. And my question, maybe last question would be that this is a consortia or partnership of different partners, and how much each of the partners is willing to continue with this ECoC Watch, or is there any single partner who really would be a vehicle to carry on? As if it's university, I can imagine that it could live within the university for a certain period of maybe additional funding will appear to really roll it as an independent, maybe institute observatory under the university could be an approach as well, collaborating with different partners out there.
Yeah, thank you, Michal. I think the team is still open to discussion how we will develop the team. Of course, that the team members that are already allocated to this project will continue to contribute to this ECoC Watch, and who knows that in the future maybe more partners will join us to help us to help other ECoCs, and I thank you very much for that question, and to all of your contributions. We are 2 minutes away to end this session, and once again I want to thank you all for sharing your knowledge, and especially to our speakers to contribute to this freehold discussion. Also, I would like to say that the Culture Data will have another event at the end of this year, but you can also, and I'm going to leave in here, you can check our online page and also our Facebook page to be aware of all the activities we have been developing, the reports that are also available, and to see future events. So thank you everyone, and have a nice weekend. If you have any final comments, but we are about to end. So thank you very much again.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.